Hello and welcome to another episode of the Hypertrophy Odyssey. It is the first day of the week, aka the Kamehameha workout. I'm feeling very good right now, very excited for this workout. But anyways, to the main subject matter for today, the friend zone. So the main reason why I wanted to discuss this is because thing that I kind of brought up the other day in something, I forgot what the episode is, but it was right here. But it was something that I wanted to get off because this is something that has been in the background, has come up a couple times and all this other stuff, and how friend zone still exists, yes, but it's not the same as it once was. When I was growing up, it was very prevalent, a very understanding thing, as there were many things that would happen around the schoolyard and all these other things. Attraction is a hell of a beast. But the thing about it is that, unfortunately, the friend zone as we know it now does not exist as it once did before. As nowadays, because of selection and all of these things that can happen all at once when it comes to mating and all that other stuff, it's almost gotten worse to the point where you are in now what is known as the non-person zone. So, in today's episode, we're going to be looking at that because that is probably what's come up with a lot of people now, specifically when they get into the friend zone. Now they've become not even a person. And that entirely just probably destroys so many people internally to the point where they have been sworn off of dating. Probably some turned gay. Then that's just a whole other subject matter in its own. But in today's episode, we're going to be looking at that, how it's changed and how it once was a terrible thing, but now it seems even worse. So, and it's not going to change anytime soon. Thank the current social climate. So with that being said, I will see you at Mother Base.
Alright, so started this day off with dips, which are pretty good, but anyways, back to the main subject matter for today. The friend zone, or something worse. So the main reason why I want to discuss this is because, like I've discussed in a previous episode, basically, whenever you tell somebody that there is a chance, whether you subconsciously, unconsciously, or don't even tell them that, in order to, fiend rejection, because of course, the opposite sex of myself is very keen on not allowing things to be very direct. It's just the way that they operate. It's just the way it is. But being direct is not their strong suit. And because of that, saying no directly puts people in this awkward zone of the friend zone, which was more, I guess, a thing in the past, I think, than it is currently. I believe now, honest to God, there's something worse than this, which is something that I think that a lot of people aren't necessarily talking about, which is the non-person zone, where the person that may have had some fiending interest in having to keep around for entertainment purposes or any other type of thing like that, maybe just regular ass companionship, actual friendship or whatever, is lost now, where all of a sudden they aren't even a person. They've been dehumanized to the point where they are a non-person. And so you aren't even in this area. And I think that has grown exponentially more as the ridiculous altitudes of standards of what constitutes even having somebody in your person's life has gone exponentially higher than anything that was even resembling anything like this maybe a decade ago, maybe a little bit more now at this point. But it is insane because when you see this type of stuff, all of a sudden people start becoming just objects in a certain sense where they are just X, Y, or Z type of thing for a person, and that's really it. And does this go both ways? In a certain sense, it's mostly on women doing this to men, where men aren't even seen as people. You can see this inherently a lot of the time with how people will just interact with strangers most of the time, or at least just generally how they will interact with facilities of the world where they are not even seen as human, but past and beyond that. And I think that a lot of people don't realize that they're even doing it. It's more of just a byproduct of the wranglings of social media kind of influencing them into hating the other gender and just kind of making it so that they believe everything that these other people are saying and never really actually interacting with their own world. Instead, they are interacting with the lenses between the world, and thus they're making it so that they are causing or projecting these fake ideas into other people and then thus making them non-human and then thrown away at the side where we aren't even people anymore. And I think a lot of people end up having this happen. Personally, that is a perfect example of this, if that most or if not a majority of people have experienced, is road rage. Unfortunately, road rage is the perfect example of dehumanizing someone to where they're not even a person. Realistically, if you're having road rage, the other person doesn't become a person. They're just a fucking idiot. And thus you have dehumanized them to the point where they are a figment of whatever is pissing you off about about their driving. And because of that, you end up just depersoning them, and then thus you want them to either get the fuck out of the way or possibly get them off fucking road in its entirety. But it's always so hard when you think, oh no, this is a person with feelings and has goals and has a life. It's rough when you start actually thinking about it, because the moment of anger comes and strikes through you, and you just say, you dehumanize them completely. And I think that that's like the biggest thing about this entire dehumanizing zone that I'm talking about in this video. But particularly if we go back into the friend zone, that's the thing that I guess is a weird like stepping stone between the two, where you aren't necessarily thrown to the wolves or depersoned, but also that you are just there. You're not even the backup option. You are the option that for some reason has no real way of winning. There are few and far between the men that actually get out of that zone, but it is such a rare thing, and also one of those things that once you're in it, you don't want to be in it, so you'll just either exit or get out of it, or be forever cucked in there. And it's kind of weird, because if you don't climb out of it yourself, you're just forever there. And a lot of men are unfortunately just stuck in that zone for such a long time they don't even realize it, or they want to be stuck there because they are hoping and praying that person that they are infatuated with all of a sudden just changes their mind for any single reason or another, when in reality that's just not going to happen most of the time. It's one of those things where if you don't climb yourself out, they won't even notice that you're gone, really, or they won't even notice anything at all. You have become unhuman, but a little less so, as they might actually interact with you and or treat you as a respectable person, which at the end of the day might be a little bit better, but also at the same time a hell on earth for a lot of dudes who will cling on to whatever infatuation they have with this woman and try to get with them, but never realizing that this is the forever cycle of keeping them in there. And the only real way is to just leave as the door is wide open, but making them try to walk through that front door is the hard part, as a lot of them will want to stay there and just be enwrapped with the possible future, and that can really consume someone.
And we're back. Welcome to the workout debriefing. Exercises not filmed to none. Exercises skipped, also none. Got everything in, thankfully. But anyways, back to the main subject matter for today, the friend zone. So the main reason why I want to discuss this is because this is something that I think most dudes have had happen to them. Now it's a thing that women go through, but as well isn't as much of a thing anymore for men, but we'll get to that in a second. I think that back in the day, obviously, this was such a terrible thing to have to deal with. Having attraction to someone and just being slightly rejected, but not really, is a weird limbo that can only really exist in the pure hearts of evil, but that's kind of a different story for a different day. I think that this is something that's just a common thing. I think most dudes go through it. Not all dudes, but most dudes at least, the common man at least. And it's a shitty experience. It's not very fun. As somebody who hasn't had to worry about that for the last decade plus, I really don't care. But also at the same time, I can understand and see the plight of the man that it still goes through, and can remember those times when I went through such things, and can go, whenever you see that, especially nowadays. Because at least when I was growing up and it was a prevalent thing, or at least it was a thing, it was shameful, but not like next level. It just happened. In today's world, it seems as though if you even get to that point, you're better off in a certain sense, because you are probably unpersoned by the individual that you're attracted to, which is even worse, where you're not even a fucking human being in their eyes, because of the fact that the attraction scales have become so skewed because of social media and everything. I'd rather at least be a friend and seen as a person, rather than what is essentially nothingness that a lot of dudes are seen as. They aren't even looked at. They are seen as less than scum. At least scum will get clean. An interesting dynamic, because some dudes will even clamor for the friend zone, because it will be like, any human interaction would be nice, thank you. But also that's even fewer and far in between, because we've gotten to the point where the dynamics between the two sexes are very confrontational, to say the least, because I think that we have been conditioned to really hate each other for some idiotic reasoning that makes absolutely zero sense. Even something like this, where I'm explaining this to you, would probably have some woman angry in the comments because of the fact that I'm calling them out for X, Y, or Z reason for, let's say, unpersoning someone. someone. It's the entire idea that, like, yeah, it's the way, it's not how you said it, it's the way you said it. But I think that it's a interesting introdynamic that has shifted and evolved into something worse that a lot of people probably don't even realize has shifted into this worse state, where now you aren't human. We have evolved past the friendship where you might actually be able to mutually benefit from being a friend, or, you know, the other way around. Even if you're a man who's befriending a woman who get to help in random ways, that's not even a thing for certain people. You aren't even looked upon as human. And I think that a lot of people in today's world, specifically the women out there who can basically choose whether or not they are friendly or not with anybody, has a real, like, stranglehold on the ability to allow relationships to even foster, whether it be regular relationships. Like I said, it doesn't even have to be romantic, but even a platonic type of thing seems lesser and lesser because of the fact that now all of these signs might be misinterpreted, or the idea of just being friendly with someone is trying to be something more than that, when in reality, no, sometimes you just want to be friendly. And it sucks. I'm thankful that I'm out of that game, but I can see it, and you can see it in a lot of the bitterness between people, especially with men who are just very bitter about it, and rightfully so. If there's nothing worse in this world than being forgotten, and that's basically what's become the friend zone, is the forgotten zone. You aren't even there, and there's nothing more disenfranchising for the soul to not even be acknowledged. So it's understandable why they're pissed. You're just not even existing to the other half. Some people will be like, hey, how does it feel to not have any human contact for the last like 10 years? And then the guy's like, it's normal. You know, that's an insane type of dealing, but that's the world that we live in now. But what are we going to do to fix it? Well, that's a whole other story for a whole other day. Maybe we'll talk about it on the channel. Maybe you'll hear about it on the news. Who knows? But with that being said, I might make a part 2 because there's so much to talk about when it comes to this particular subject matter and what it's become. Please let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Please share this video with anybody who may or not like it. I will be back on tomorrow with a new video. Thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I will see you in the next one. Keep it heavy, stay safe out there, and stay warm, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace!